regulators are hearing from so many different stakeholders on the digital grid. And it used to be the utility, maybe the attorney general, and then the industrial customers. Well, that was probably who they really heard from. Well, today, everybody that has an idea on, I need a solar panel on a roof, or I want to sell batteries, the regulators are hearing from so many different people around the technology that I think it's an unbelievable opportunity for utilities across the country, DTE Energy here in Michigan, to work and collaborate with the regulators to understand what the digital grid really looks like. I think they're struggling to come up to speed on understanding how it all impacts customers. How do you pay for it? How do you make sure that you keep bills and rates affordable? So I don't think they're holding back the digital grid, but I don't think as an industry we're doing enough to try to educate them on why this is really important going forward. And I can give practical examples, but just one here in Michigan is recently during a storm, a series of our AMI network did not report back for a day and a half. Well, we had severe damage of what we call our mesh network, or the telecommunications network. Well, the regulator was extremely critical on why we weren't able to provide them the information they were looking at. And I had to remind them, it's the same regulator that won't let me upgrade from 3G to 5G so that I can get that information back. So sometimes I think it's really on the utilities to explain how all of this interconnects, because they're not thinking about this every day like we are. And oftentimes it's the young staffers that tend to work in a public service commission, even more than the regulators, that will really try to dictate policy and how these things roll. So great opportunity for us to do it. And we need to do a better job as an industry. And I know certainly here at DTE, we can improve what we're doing to try to work with our regulators around the digital grid.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think, regulation in the past, it always feels like it's not catching up with, not reality, but what current demands are. I think right now, the nature of the industry, you have a lot more stakeholders, like you mentioned. You have the utilities, obviously, but you have commercial customers. You have regular customers like you and I, who are very interested in the energy transition, very interested in decarbonization, want to see regulations catch up a lot more quickly than what it is now. And then regulators on the other hand, they have to justify the ask as well. So it's kind of a tough position to be in. Some of it is around trying to really educate the regulators around what are the priorities and what their role is. But it's also, I think, the onus is on the utility to make the case, yes. Right? Whether it's an AMI investment or an ADMS investment or wanting to deploy a bunch of devices, they really need to make the business case very clear. And I've seen a lot of business cases, and some of them are kind of better than others. But I think, like you mentioned, you're dealing with a regulator that may not always have their hands on the pulse at all times. Right. So you really need to kind of go the extra mile to make sure that they have all the kind of the relevant information and help them come to a decision that makes sense for all of us.
Yeah, managing a grid is difficult. That's what I tell people all the time. It may seem simple, but to get Six Sigma power quality and outages, it's extremely hard. Well, across the United States, utilities make it look pretty simple, right? By and large, grids operate really well, with the exception of a few weather events every now and then that hit the country. So our regulators don't think about the transition we're going through. Well, now as we're starting to file rate cases because of this lack of load growth, they're starting to think a little bit more on, well, tell me the justification and the benefit. Why does this help the customers? Right. And the customers are demanding it. It's, we don't have a choice but to go down this path because our customers are demanding that we give them a digital grid. They want the information so that they understand how to better interact with us. It'll benefit all of us, but we've got to make the case. I think you really make a great point that we need to make the case to the regulator.